How do you do? Welcome to the human race. We are playing a game.
And we're playing out a ritual, a certain kind of a dance.
Why are we here? What's the point?
I can't remember, but it's alright, just dance.
But you're definitely here.
The secret to all this is
that the only thing we have to fear is
Adolf Hitler, Al Capone,
rapists, and some, I assume, are good people.
You can't be scared to die for the truth.
The truth will set you free.
The really important kind of freedom involves attention and awareness.
It opens our eyes, our ears, tells us where delights are lurking.
You're out of your mind, you know that?
it's taking a lifetime of practice.
Hello.
Hello. I loved watching that.
It was, I'm sure some people are like, wow, she's out of her mind. And I'm like, yeah, it's taken a lifetime of practice. So
oh, goodness, it was the perfect out of your mind kind of thing for me. What I needed to see again and again and again.
Well, welcome. This is the first episode. Thank you. This is my friend Molly Fisher. Thank you for being my guest.
I can't wait to be here and talk to you. I think it speaks volumes that I've seen that clip and that I just saw it again and got just goosebumps, and it makes me want to talk to you because those clips are just put together of just things that I believe in, and I don't know, it resonated. It was beautiful.
Yeah, I that one part where it's like, why are we here? And then it's like the Lady Gaga, I can't remember. It's like it goes to the name of the podcast, which I'm sure we can get into. But yeah,
I don't know if this ever happens with you, but with me, like music, it'll hit me and I can't stop playing things like on repeat. And there's this new Bleachers song. I've never been a Bleachers fan. I've never really listened to Jack Antonoff either. But there's this song called Self-Respect, and it's about this feeling of like through the ugliness of life, like through it all, the only thing that he wants to do is just feel and experience life. And he says this one thing, like, I think the line is, I don't know when it was, like the day that Kobe fell from the sky. And it's like, I think we all as people have those very visceral moments of pop culture that connect to when we lost ourselves. And to hear somebody else's, like, I was like, oh, wow. I remember where I was when that happened. And that is part of why I now feel this like undying urge to live.
Yeah. Yeah. I can say that for me in the last 6 months, I mean, I have no desire to get into the depths of what's happening around the world, but seeing things on my phone that I've never seen before made me realize that like life is precious and not guaranteed. You could walk out of the door today, and do you want the end of your life could happen today, tomorrow, at 95, at 105, but what do you want to feel at the end? And that's essentially what I spend my time working for, is for like the peace at the end,
It's so interesting too, because that for me is like such a big reason why I do what I do. And then I also find that like when I look at my phone and I see things that are happening that like are so unsettling and upsetting, and I feel so small. And then that's when I realize like me pining over something happening somewhere else, and I don't mean to be vague, but yes, I don't think that we need to go. Me doing that doesn't help. But what I can do is I can live in my truest body, and I can be present, and I can speak my truth clearly. And I know I will never regret that. The other choice is I will lay in bed and cry and mask and get by.
Yeah.
So
I think you're like talking about it, but I realize for the listeners, I would like can you describe Molly, whether it be little Molly or present day Molly? Who is Molly? And yeah.
I love that question. Who is Molly? Molly is, I am someone that has always, I would be on a soccer team, but I would be doing cartwheels on the field. I would be collecting flowers when I should be scoring goals. I was passing to the opposite team because I could see them trying really hard. I got kicked out of band because I couldn't learn how to read the notes, and I really loved the people, so I faked it, and I would just fake play until they asked me to do a solo, and I didn't know anything, and I got kicked out. So I was never a troublemaker, but I never did things. I couldn't, even if I tried, do things the way that other people wanted me to. I was definitely like, oh, Molly, there she goes again, just twirling around. And so in high school, that as I grew up, it was celebrated and loved within my home. Like the hokey pokey was always on, and that's what I was good at. I felt I was born to hokey, and like I would do it all the time. High school was just devastating, and like I didn't fit in and didn't like it. I went to college and I met these two professors who were just as off the beaten path as I was, and they, instead of thinking like, oh, what's she doing, they just amplified my kind of way of looking at life. And I ended up creating classes and creating a whole program for spectacle work. And I did a semester abroad on an Indian reservation in Canada. I was the first group to go because I was so interested by the storytelling and the rituals and the spectacle of the reservation. So I lived on the reservation for a year, and I really felt free. I was who I was meant to be. And then I graduated college and I was offered a job at New Trier High School teaching special education. I had an education degree, but I also had a speech and theater was like obviously like big calling. And I just started living the life everyone thought I should live. I was engaged to a really wonderful person, kindest man I have met, even just in general, just good. He's a statistician, works at Northwestern, and I was a special ed teacher at New Trier. And I called my professors one day, those two that I had originally met on the first day of school. And I just said to them, like, I'm not happy. And the last time I was happy, I was with you guys. And they encouraged me to let creativity back into my life. And I was embarrassed because everyone had seen me seriously. Everyone was taking me seriously, and it was so hard, and I was exhausted because it wasn't really me. But I went to some slam poetry night in Palatine, like by myself, and I sat down at a table, and it was Mikey. And we didn't exchange names, but we talked all night. And I went to the bathroom, and I remember saying to my mom, like, I'm engaged, but I just wanted to talk to this person. Like, I don't even talk to anyone like that. And the night went, and then I ended up taking the pamphlet from that night and like saving it because I was like, I want that. I want that connection. I saw a flyer for DePaul grad school, and I called Kirk and Randy, and I was like, I think I need to go to school again. Like, I'm lost right now. And they're like, honey, do whatever you need to do. It was a flippant, I didn't really think it through. I showed up in jeans and Converse, and like I did not have anything memorized. And everyone was in heels and dresses, and they had their hair slicked back, and like I walk in and everyone's like, ah, and I was like, whoa, what's going on here? And they walked into the room and said, you're going to come in, look at the camera, slate your name, do your monologue, and walk out. I didn't have a monologue. I didn't know what a name slate was. I walked in and I said, hello, is it on? And they were like, your name. And I was like, okay, my name is Molly. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know how to do this, but like, that's why I need to go to school. And I left being like, okay, I bombed that. And it was a horrible feeling. And I was like, ugh. Thank God no one knew I did that. And I got a call saying, it was from Dexter Bullard saying, we're going to put you on the wait list. And I was like, what? And I told my fiance, and he was like, well, you're not going to do anything with that. And I said, I am. I'm going to wait and see. And he was like, Molly, absolutely. That is quite silly. You're just taking up someone's spot. Because there's only 10 people in the program. I waited, and then I got a phone call 2 weeks before my school year started, saying, would you like to come in the fall in just about a month? It's a 3-year program, and it's a conservatory. Like, you will be the least knowledgeable person in your class. And this is something we haven't done before. And I was like, oh, well, that feels a little funky, but let's do it. And I walked into work. I put in my 2 weeks notice. I let my fiance know that I was taking the part. Yeah. And he was wonderful about it, whatever. But that was the start of me realizing that I am different than other people. And when I try to be like other people, it's really sad. I found myself in grad school. I loved every moment of it. And then I graduated. I got signed by an agent. And that week I was diagnosed with thyroid cancer. And ironically, 19 years ago today, so then at that point, I think it was 10 years, I had my neck broken. And I had never taken the time to heal from that properly. I took the time to heal physically, and emotionally, I think I just didn't listen to my body the way I should. And I believe that the body keeps score. And I believe that if I had kept going at that pace, I would not be here. But that is when I was diagnosed with thyroid cancer, Mikey, who is my husband now, I met him like along this journey.
That's how we were lucky enough to meet each other.
And the man of my dreams, the pea to my pod, he took me on a road trip to Colorado and like San Francisco, and we saw all these wonderful things before I had to have surgery. And we talked to every medical cannabis person that we could, and we tried patches and we tried lotions and everything. And I got out of surgery, and they were like, unfortunately, we had to remove your whole thyroid, but the tumor was benign. And when I went into surgery, they had a biopsy before I had gone on the road trip that was malignant. I was going to be doing radiation and chemo.
What?
And so I was like, okay, whoa. So they're like, we're no longer treating you. I did radiation to be careful, but now they were treating me for the lack of a thyroid. And they let me know, you are unable to get pregnant. You could, if you want to spend the money. It's basically like IVF because your thyroid controls your hormones. So when you have a baby, your hormones shift so the baby can survive. Mine wouldn't shift because I take a medicine every day that's the same medicine, so a baby can't survive. And Mikey and I were a little sad, but we were also like, you know what? Like, we're gonna pivot and be artists. And yes, and I just remember taking a shot of tequila with him in Arizona, being like, I'm gonna travel the world with you and we're gonna make art. And yeah, I thought I was supposed to be a mom, but no. And that hangover, it lasted 8 months, and I threw up every day, multiple times a day. I would pee my pants every time I threw up. I was miserable. I thought I was going to hate Rooney. I thought she was going to hate me. And she came into this world and everything changed. Nothing was like how I thought it was. I thought I was going to give birth in a river. I ended up having an emergency C-section. I thought that I would do so much skin to skin. I didn't see Rooney for 48 hours. Nothing was what I thought it would be. Everything was hard from the beginning. And they kept telling me, she's not hitting milestones. She's not. And my body went into panic mode. And I don't know when it was. I think it was her official diagnosis of being on the autism spectrum. I dropped to my knees because I have been working with the autistic community for 11 years, but I dropped to my knees. The wind was taken out of me. And I looked over and Mikey was smiling and I was like, oh my God, what? And he was like, honey, knowledge is power. We can connect to her. We can find out more about her. And I was like, oh, okay. Great pivot. And through learning to understand why she was doing the things she was doing, Mikey and I started to look at each other like, do you think maybe you should get tested? And we both tested, and we both are on the autism spectrum. And so we are all learning how to co-regulate. And it's been a very beautiful journey of me looking at Rooney and showing her I almost gave up on myself. And I now look at her and I know that she's going to change the world. I know that she has everything in her to heal what is broken. And I just have to show her how hard it is going to be. And I have to believe in her and believe in myself. And that, I think, is where the best summary of who I am right now.
I'm stunned because I have loved you from afar. We've been in communication for 10 years probably.
Yeah, for when I say forever, from moment one of meeting each other.
From moment one. And I remember the moment. We were in the kitchen. I was living in an 8-bedroom artist loft. Mikey was one of my roommates in Chicago. And I met you and I was just like, oh, Mikey's doing he found a really great
I would be so
companion
nervous
for life
to go to the bathroom in that loft in the middle of the night because it would be dark and I would be in my PJs and I would always see you and I would be like, oh, okay, it's not scary out here. Yeah. And then I loved it. It was it was the most comforting place in the world.
Yeah, it was very interesting. I also, what's so funny is I haven't gotten tested for autism, but I every indicator that is out there says that I'm somewhere on the spectrum. And then there was someone the other day that was like something about small talk and like how to have a small talk, and I was like,
not for me.
Like it's completely something that like neurodivergence. Like we jump right in. Why would we talk about what like the trivial things?
It's shocking to me that is seen as a bad thing. I'm like, I'm efficient.
I don't want to waste anyone's time.
I'm like, listen, I'm not. I don't want to talk about the weather. You can look outside.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's something that I'm coming to recognize is like a big part of me, where it's like, I don't know. First of all, I'm just so glad like I know you, because when you were talking, I realized how much I didn't know. And we've known each other for 10 years. So
feel free to ask me questions. Feel free. I'm an open
so well, I had, I have a little outline, and I'm not going to pretend like I don't, or like I'm like whatever. But I kind of hit everything that was like, well, how are you doing today, here, now? Like, how are you doing right now?
I would say right now I am as good as it gets. I am feeling centered in my body, even though there's chaos around me. I am feeling empowered in my art, even though I have been rejected constantly and I haven't gotten any affirmation back. I'm feeling proud of my bravery through learning music, and I'm feeling like I am going to make it in this world where I don't belong. Like, I don't really understand capitalism, and I don't know why people just don't share. And like, who needs an egg? Come on over and grab an egg out of my fridge. I'm not going to charge you. I don't know why everybody is charging everybody so much for everything to live. And I think if we could just take care of each other a little bit more, maybe things wouldn't be so fucking miserable. I don't want to go off on a rant on this, but like, I've always wondered, whenever people have specific certain beliefs about certain groups of people, I always want to ask them, like, so when you were born, you like woke up, right? Like, I like did not choose this. I have no control over. I would have chosen other things. I would have chosen to be probably like, I would love to be a person that has her sweater at her desk and a change of shoes underneath, and clocks in and does like all of her work stuff, and like tells Georgia that there's a conference room in like 2 minutes. Like, I would have loved to be born extremely boring, and that's like,
I know what you're saying. I know what
that's
you're
rude.
saying. Just like standard.
Yeah. And have a simple, like, minimalistic house. I'm
and
a
just get pleasure
maximalist.
from the things that like life tells you you're supposed to get pleasure from.
Yes, like very simple. I would have chosen that. I would have chosen to be born with money. I would have chosen a lot of different things. I don't get why people think that they can yell at other people because of who they are. I'm like, did you get a say in your body? I don't like, it confuses me. And I'm like, okay, Molly, you need to like, I do always feel like, okay, if I can just talk to somebody, I can get through to their head, like, you're acting like an idiot. But unfortunately, like, this year is my first year of that innocence being lost, because I've had conversations with people about things where I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
You believe that after hearing what I said? Okay.
Yeah.
Like, that's a major yikes. So that's like a whole new innocence that I've lost. But again, that's another reason to be I will be very disappointed every day by the world if I go off of that.
Yeah.
That was a tangent.
I mean, I some of the things you said reminded me that like the goal, there's this really wonderful woman named Ismatu Gwendolyn. I wish I had her little video that I could pull up. I do have a lot of other little things in the queue that I have now no desire to like if they come up. But Ismatu Gwendolyn says like we have to be in the mindset of world making. Like what's the world we want to live in? Like how can we co-create an adjacent world to the one that we have now that is better and more equitable and more free and liberating for everyone and fair to everyone. And yeah, so also like there, do you like Alan Watts? Are you an Alan Watts? Yeah. I figured we would be on the same page about that.
Yes.
He has something that he said one time, like, and it's probably one of my favorite videos that he has, where he talks about sanity. And he's like, you know, we want everyone to be normal, but how do we know that these disorders, which I could get into, or these like, you know, neurodivergence is not humanity's growing edge to something that is more humane?
You know, I mean, that is a very, I want to make sure, I'm going to like reflect a little bit because I could be misinterpreting what you're saying, but I recall like the first first 5 months after my thyroid surgery, like they had to regulate my medication. And I recall having thoughts that were so real and scary that made me do things that weren't aligned with who I was. And if society had taken care of me, knowing that that was not me, that that was my disorder that I was dealing with, there wouldn't have been as big of a problem. Is that what you're saying?
Like, so yeah, to a degree, yeah. I think that we have this idea of the standard, which no one can adhere to. Even the people that we think of as the standard are not the standard. They don't feel like they are because they're looking to somebody else that is living a perfect life. And I think that we're missing our shared humanity. And sometimes that shared humanity shows up in a way that is either confronting or is showing a mirror to you. And then furthermore, I get the sense that we will look back on how we treated neurodivergence or mental illnesses in the future, like 150 years from now, if we're, you know, everything's going well on this planet. I have a sense that we will be like, wow, we missed a lot. And we made a lot of people feel shame for something that actually has a value when you can alchemize your pain into growth or something like that.
You know, that's interesting. I love that word, alchemy. I just think that it's like very rich and resonant. Something that I talk about a lot when describing Rooney is that a lot of people spend so much time trying to make her do things. And it makes me laugh because she will never do anything that you want her to do. And it's the coolest thing I've ever seen because it's the opposite of me. I'm a people pleaser and I don't like that. I wish I could be, I have become stronger because of Rooney, but she will do what you are asking her to do safety wise. She will do what you're asking her to do and be polite, but she'll do it in her own way. Like for school pictures, she's sitting in the seat and she's like, serious face, no smile. They're like, Rooney, you can see bubbles going in the screen. She's like, and she's the happiest girl in the world. Now, she went to a school where I got reports back saying she will never speak. And I can't say it wasn't worded like that. She is nonverbal. She communicates at the age level of, it was below 1 year old. And I realized testing her is not the way in. And so we ended up changing schools, and it went against everything I believed in. I believe in inclusion, and I want Rooney to have friends of all different types of people. But we ended up going with a special needs school, and the first couple of days, her speech therapist called me. And quick side note, ironically, her speech therapist is this amazing improviser in Chicago that works at IO. And then she has her own web series. And the only reason why I found this out is because I sent her pictures so she could make a book for Rooney. And I had a picture at Second City. And she was like, "What are you doing there?" And I was like, "Oh, I've only taught here for like 11 years. And she was like, "Whoa, like I'm really in that community." So I was like, that's cool.
Yeah.
But she called me and she said, "I'm noticing that like they would make her at school in her IEP, her goal was if she wanted goldfish, she had to give them the goldfish sticker. And we just did this over and over again. And she'd just go for the goldfish, and then she'd take the sticker and throw it and be like, I don't want to do that." And finally, this woman was like, "Why are we doing that? She doesn't want to do it." So she took something that she cared about, which was a picture of me and her that she has in her backpack. And she was like, "Oh my gosh, Rooney, is that you and your dad?" And Rooney was like, "No." And just said no. And she was like, "Oh, who is that?" "My mom." And it was in that moment that we realized that Rooney will talk when she doesn't feel like she's being judged. She will talk when you go slow. She will use her voice. She knows everything that's going on. She plays clips very purposefully. If she's hungry and she doesn't want to talk, she'll play a clip from Beatbugs that says, "Food, food, please give me some food." If she wants to see my sister, she'll come up to me and hand me my iPhone or her iPad, and it'll say, "Don't you just love it when you hang out with your sister? Let's go get her." And I'm like, "Where did you find that clip? You're brilliant." So if I looked at Rooney in the way that society is currently, that would be a real shame, because what she's doing, she's the first student in this special needs school that has given herself a job. She's also in kindergarten, but her job that they give her now, she's in love with, she's very moved by people in wheelchairs and wants to make sure that they get to their rooms in a orderly way. And she wants to make sure all of them get outside time just like everybody else. And so Rooney's in charge of the wheelchairs at getting off the bus. And I'm like, nobody told her those people aren't able to move their legs, so they need to be pushed. And she knew, if I can push those people, they're going to go do what they want to do. To me, that's intelligence.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think that, there's a quote I'm going to probably mess up, but it's something like, if we judge a fish at like how well it can climb a tree, we're going to think the fish is not intelligent. And the fish has its own intelligence. And I think that every single human being on this planet has their own internal intelligence. And like, I think you get it by listening to your body. I think you understand it more by listening to your body. And I do get the sense that like people that are human beings that have autism are really in tune with their own body and self-regulating, so that like it is not, I can't even see it from the outside perspective anymore, because I kind of feel like I'm on the inside of it. But it's like, you can't, like, the world will want to judge, and you can't let the world tell you who you are. You can't.
Well, it's also, you can't. So many people have asked me, like, do you read books to her? And I'm like, excuse you? Yeah, like all the time. They're like, well, like, really? Like, is she looking? Like, maybe if you read more. And I don't think people realize, like, there isn't anything I can do to change her. I am here to guide her.
Mm-hmm.
She is going to become who she is. I have no say. I think it is sad when parents are controlling and they raise children to be tamed, to be caged to what they want. Yeah, it has provided us with a lot of sleepless nights because we're not going to not listen to her if she's crying. If she's upset, we're going to regulate together. We don't have rules of like doors closed at this time, and we don't. And a lot of people disagree with that. A lot of people will say like, "You're just too easy on her," or "You've now created something that whines." And to that I say, I think I'm just listening to her. And if she's whining, she's uncomfortable. Do you like being uncomfortable? And so my greatest fear is what happens when I'm not here.
Yeah.
And so if I mother her the way that I had to for so many years, which is just holding her and loving her and like co-regulate, like her smell is the best smell in the entire world. Her little lips and like her hands are so soft, and it's just like my heaven. But if I did that, when I go, she wouldn't know who she was. And I don't want that. I think that I have to teach her that she, exactly who she is that is it.
I mean, perfect to a degree. Like,
That's it. That's enough.
She's enough. She deserves love. She deserves compassion. And just like we all do. And you know, the older generation tends to do this thing where it's like life isn't fair. So you have to like have all these defense mechanisms against life. And I'm like, but we can make life more fair. We can make life more equitable. And there's the one thing that I was like, when I was like, oh, I think I am on the spectrum, is it's like neurodivergent people have a big, big, big space for justice. And they put that as a disorder. They say like the more you're justice centered, the more you have a disorder. And I'm like, because I care about other people that I don't know and I don't have any kinship with, but I see them suffering. Like that's a disorder. Okay, fine. Call it a disorder. I will be disorderly in a way that benefits the collective.
Understand that. It will never process through my brain, maybe because I'm autistic. But so for Christmas, my amazing mother-in-law, like, she just gives us the best gifts. It's never like gifts like, oh, thank you. Like, it's like good ones.
Yeah.
And what she got us season passes to the zoo. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's incredible. Okay, because like that costs a lot of money. And like it's Brooklyn Field or whatever.
Yeah.
It's a nice zoo. And I hear parents like, that's what they do. And we get there. And the first thing we see is birds, a bird house. And Rooney loves birds. She, like, I don't know how she's done it, but in our backyard, cardinals are always there. Bunnies, birds. She's collected. We have nests everywhere in our backyard. And she freaked out. I have never had to hold her down or restrain her, but she was screaming to let the birds out. And I was like, honey, I could not calm her down. And a guard came over and I was like, I need someone that works here, can someone tell her that they're okay? And they just were awful and just removed us. And I had to carry this fighting. She fought like she could lift a car. I got to the car, I was bloody, like she had scratched me, and she was crying about these birds. And for so long at school, it's all she would talk about is the birds in the house, the birds in the house. And finally, we called the zoo and we talked to them, and they were really wonderful. And we went back and met somebody outside, and they explained to her, like, some birds do like being inside, even though I'm like, But it was really beautiful to see somebody not see her tantrum as a problem.
Yeah.
Like, they kept telling her, like, be quiet, there are other people here. Like, and instead of trying to, like, silence somebody's call for justice, like, yes, they are birds, but to her, those are her friends. And, like, that's maybe what she feels like, is like, I wish somebody would help me. And so to see that happen and to see how the world reacts to somebody, like, really panicked, is they don't listen to why they're really panicked. And they just automatically, that person's crazy.
Go into fix mode, go into shut it down, go into, like, we can't have that in normal standard society. We have to have everything like milquetoast and equal, and not equal in like a justice sense, but equal in like a
level,
like a flat line. This is like, I'm so sad I haven't met her. I feel like I have to meet her.
I know, you're gonna love, you guys are gonna get
It
a
reminds
lot.
me of the poem. I have it queued up, and I'm also going to use the bathroom while we do this. But one of my favorites is Wild Geese by Mary Oliver.
Wait, and really quickly, I performed this in grad school.
You did?
I picked out of a hat. My teacher had different Mary Oliver poems, and my first time hearing or reading this poem, it was given to me, and I had to perform it in front of my class. And I remember, like, it was the most beautiful art I had created, because it was
in the moment. It was so present. Like, you're discovering things as they're happening, which is the best. And like, I don't like the word discover, because it's like, if it's already existed, like, everything's already been married to another thing. You're encountering this for the first time.
It's magic. It's magic.
I'm gonna go ahead and play that real quick.
Perfect.
Wild geese. You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Tell me about despair, yours, and I will tell you mine. Meanwhile, the world goes on. Meanwhile, the sun and the clear pebbles of the rain are moving across the landscapes, over the prairies and the deep trees, the mountains and the rivers. Meanwhile, the wild geese, high in the clean blue air, are heading home again. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over announcing your place in the family of things.
Well, that's going to be, well, I don't know if we'll edit it out. Thank you, Molly. I was just saying that I just got back from East Africa and I was in the jungles of Uganda with wild gorillas. And when I looked into their eyes, we were looking at each other. We were like seeing, like I was seeing like a version of humanity or a version of who I was before I had been caged. And the wildness in their eyes is something I would pay and travel to Africa for again and again. I wouldn't do it again. It was a long hike and I was really exhausted by the end, but like to do that once, I would do that every lifetime that if I could, to experience that level of wildness within an animal that needs to be in the wild. And so, yeah, you're right. The birds, like some of them, if we're talking about human beings, some human beings do feel safer in a cage because they were raised in a cage.
And if
But
that's
it's
the
liberating
case, like
when you
cage it
get out
up.
and you can fly.
Yeah, like if somebody likes a cage, like I'm not here to yuck anyone's yum. I love cages.
Tom Robbins?
Yeah.
I may be reading Still Life with Woodpecker where he's like talks about yuck and yum. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Of course I do. And it resonates. I'm like, I can't get it out of my head now because of that.
Yeah.
But it's because of those fierce moments in life. Like when I saw her fight for those birds, like, yeah, I was destroyed and yeah, I was exhausted. Like, I don't know if you've ever been to Brookfield Zoo, but it's a hike to get to the car. And like, I am definitely not that strong physically, and she is very strong. I was sweating red and like so upset that she wouldn't even listen to me.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I was so proud that she didn't listen to me and that she said, this is this important. And I don't care about you, Mom, right now, because honestly, I need this message to be heard. And I was like, it brought me back to Glennon Doyle's thing. Like, you're going to disappoint everyone in your life, but never disappoint yourself. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where it's at.
Yeah. And like, as you were talking, I was thinking, as you were talking, I was thinking about like what the title of this episode is, which is the sacredness of divine play, I think, the sacredness of play, intuition, and listen to your body. And I feel like we're dancing around these topics without having to like hit them on the head, because there's like she listened to her body. She listened to her body and she didn't deny her feelings. And that is something that like most generations of people have not gotten the experience of, but we are moving into a world, if we can continue to build it, where people are allowed to feel their feelings in their body, and then they don't take it to the next moment. They don't suppress it, and it carries with them as guilt or shame to the next moment. It is released. You're liberated. You're free. So like, yes, like I'm sure as a mother and a caretaker and someone who wants her to be safe and happy, that was hard. But also as another human being, to see someone alive within their own body and expressing themselves in their truth, like, like that's beautiful.
Yeah. Like that's what I would choose time and time again. I don't envy the mothers that have. I thought Rooney would just sit where I asked her to sit and take a fork and take a bite and say please and thank you. And I don't envy that. I don't know how they got that way. And I'm proud of those that are that way naturally, but I don't envy it anymore, because what I have is wonderful.
Yeah.
And it has given me the power to listen to my body. It's because of her that like I don't care if I don't get an audition. If my body feels good doing it, I know I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. If it doesn't, I'm not sending in that audition, because if I didn't have fun doing that, I'm not going to have fun filming.
Yeah. I mean, it's like your body knows more than I think the world has allowed us to believe. Like my number one thing when I am talking to someone who is like really in the thick of it and they're in their head and they're ruminating and they're full of anxiety, I'm like, where is this showing up in your body? And can you send ease there? Because it is fascinating how the body keeps the score. It's all connected. And we have been over-identified with our mind to the point where we think that's where the answers lie. But you might get an answer that is real from your head, but you'll probably second guess it and ruminate over it and have anxiety over it. But if you go to your body, you'll get the truth in a pretty efficient manner. Which
your head is the worst place to find information. My head is so mean to me, and my body is my saving grace. Like, it's like my body is what's given me the ability to think about myself kindly. Before, when my head was in charge, it was like, you're not good, and like, you're not pretty because your hair is fuzzy, and like, you definitely could use like something to like brighten up those pale cheeks. You know what I mean? And like, that's my head. That's what society's done to my head. But
it's
when I listen to my body,
to be.
My body doesn't ever say anything like
No.
that.
My body is constantly trying to heal itself and like give me grace and forgiveness and like reminding me that I'm human. And like, that's why I think conversations like this are so important, because I think there's a lot of people, not just women, but kind of especially women, that are still in that mental rat race, thinking that they have to do a certain number of things to be worthy. And like, I only know because I've tried everything that nothing ever worked. There was never a time that I felt worthy in my mind by accomplishing anything or doing anything or proving anybody right. Like, the only time I felt worthy was when I was like, oh, I'm a human being just like everybody else, so I'm allowed to be happy.
And guess what? That happiness might shift to deep, dark depression for 20 minutes or a day or 2 days. But I find if I keep moving, like, if I keep pivoting, if I keep doing the things that I know that I need to make me happy, I have to have my water. I have to have food, even if I'm not hungry. There are days that like I'm nauseous from fear, and I have to fuel and feed my body, not my brain, my body. And that's who I listen to then once they've been fed.
Did you so I don't have a recording of this, but I have it saved, so I'm gonna pull it up and read it, because Rumi, I mean, I'm sure you like Rumi and the guest house.
Come
it's
on.
like a perfect time
Come
to
on.
read this.
Bring it
so
in.
I'm gonna read it really quick. The Guest House by Rumi. This being human is a guest house. Every morning a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness, some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Still treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond.
That's it.
I had that on my fridge when I first moved to New Orleans, and I was like, I went to a NAMI, a National Alliance on Mental Illness meeting, and they gave it like the day of like the group therapy, and I like it just lives in me now, because I know everything passes. If I'm feeling joy, I just deepen into it because I know it might not stay. I don't like try to grab onto it or grasp it or put it in a box. And if I'm feeling sad, I'm like, it'll pass, but I have to feel it deeply so it doesn't carry on. Oh, sorry.
I've lived both ways. I've gotten very stuck in emotions, and that's when I don't move. That's like what Pivot or Panic is all about. I'll do a quick little shout out for Pivot or Panic, but it's all about everybody experiences panic in their life. It's promised. But you don't have to feel panicked. You can pivot calmly to find something different. It might be another failure, but it won't be the same one. I think that movement in general is all you can want,
Mm-hmm.
and it will take you where you need to go.
Yeah. It's like it's movement and its presence and its aliveness, all kind of like dancing together in this like cacophony of experience that we get to dip into. And I realized I like the how I came up with the name for this podcast was based on this idea, the splendor of recognition, which I've been obsessed with for years. Pretty much caused my mental breakdown, also / a spiritual awakening, also gave me a deeper insight to myself. But I had sent you the synopsis, but it's basically like there was a god named Brahma. He was
Oh yeah,
bored. He
I love
created Earth.
yeah.
He created this is in the Hindu religion. He created, the earth and animals, and he was like, this is great. And then he got bored, and then he created human beings. And then he created Maya, which is a god of play and kind of a little bit of trickery to spice things up because he was bored. And so she ended up saying, okay, you want to play the best game ever? And ended up cutting Brahma up into little pieces and putting a piece of himself in every single human being on this planet. And then changed the code so he would forget that he did that. So we forget we're divine, and then we remember we're divine, and then we have to pay taxes, and then we remember we're divine, and we have to pay our bills.
Yeah.
And it's all part of like the hide and seek of the whole thing. And Leela is like a divine play in Hindu, which is like the art of divine play, the art of playing for the sake of play,
Yeah. I mean, it's something that Mikey has really helped me with. I was having a very hard time learning piano in the beginning, and he was like, why do you think kids learn it easier? And I was like, I don't know. And he was like, because kids come and they just make noise and they press the keys. They're not sitting here saying, I want to play Elton John or I want to play Taylor Swift. They're just playing and just make noise.
Yeah.
Stop thinking so much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, I feel like
that's
quite
great.
a first. Like, I feel like that is as full circle as it gets.
Yeah. I think that we can end there. We're at an hour. That's what I wanted to do. I love when things line up time-wise. I'm like such an efficiency junkie that I'm like,
wow.
It happens. I cannot thank you enough.
Well done, my friend. Well done.
I appreciate your offering to whoever hears this. I appreciate your offering to me. I see you in your full power, and I commend it, and I honor it. And I think you're a living miracle of a woman and a human being. And I'm saying that all because I told you about the tarot cards that I got, but it felt like they came into
true,
though.
I feel the same thing about you. And I think that this is a very, very beautiful way for us to reconnect. And I can't wait to hear more from you and to hear more from people that are speaking with you because you are brilliant.
I mean, it takes one to know one.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, good luck at your audition.
I had the best time with you. So thank you.
Thank you. All right. Well, we'll catch up soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.